Hi, I'm Jason Aaronwood, and today I'm going to talk to you about what I consider to be pretty much the first order of business with playing guitar, and that is picking technique. If you're going to use a pick, basically you're going to want to make sure that you can do it as efficiently as possible so that you can play as many different things using that same technique rather than try to learn a different technique for every single situation. The main picking technique that we use for guitar is called alternate picking. And all that really is just consistently picking down, then up, then down, then up, and just never repeating the same pick stroke twice in a row. And this allows us to move very fluidly from note to note. It does take effort to really kind of get this technique down because of crossing over different strings. It's not always as easy as just down, up, down, up. But just to get started, let's practice just on an open string. Let's try the 6th string, your low E string. Down, up, down, up. Typically you'll start on a downstroke most of the time, so that if you were to count along to a beat, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say you were playing eighth notes, half beats basically, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and on all the numbered beats you would play a downstroke, and all the half beats in between, or the up beats, you'll play an upstroke. The key is to also pick each one of these as evenly as possible. You really shouldn't be able to really discern between a downstroke and an upstroke to actually just listen to it. Beyond that, there's also 3 particular points that I like to make sure that they're looking out for when you start alternate picking. The first thing, the most important thing, is where the motion from your picking is coming from. You'll notice when I do this, my wrist is actually what's moving. My elbow will move, but it's not like actually moving to actually pick. I'm mostly coming from the wrist with the motion. So as I play a scale, you'll notice that my wrist is pretty much the only thing moving. My elbow only moves very slightly in order to reposition my hand over the correct string. But for the most part, all of the motion is coming from my wrist. So there are really 3 possible places that the motion could come from, which is, like I said, your elbow, which is really what we want to avoid, because it's going to cut down on the amount of accuracy that you can have in picking. It would be kind of like trying to write your name with a baseball bat. So first of all, once again, we move, the picking motion comes from the wrist. The other place also is, by the way, the fingers, which is something called circular picking. It's very, you can get a lot of accuracy, but you can't get very fast with it. So for the most part, let's stick with the wrist. Otherwise, so with the wrist, you only rock side to side, like as if there were a hinge right here, and you can kind of just pivot side to side. You only have so much range of motion, but considering how wide your strings are, even the thickest string is only about 2 to 2.5 millimeters. So you just need to be able to clear the string and come back. Okay, the second thing, which is kind of what I was just hinting at, is the very narrow range of motion. This is going to come down to an idea called economy of motion, which basically says don't work harder than you have to. So in order to pick a string, let's say I'm just going to pick this one string, well, if I pick real wide, then I have to come all the way back. And also, not only is that too much effort, but I also run the risk of hitting other strings on the way out there and on the way back. So if I just keep a very small motion, I'll be sure to hit the string that I'm aiming for and not any other string. And I won't waste extra energy that I might be able to better use for something else. The third point is to use just the very tip of the pick. I often use something called the Stylus Pick, which is an invention that was created specifically to teach alternate picking. Basically, the Stylus Pick has a rounded edge at the end. It still has a point, but it's kind of cone-shaped at the end instead of just a flat pick, so that the pick can glide over the string. The real point in the Stylus Pick is to train you to use only the very tip of the pick, and that's really what we're getting at here. Is the more of the pick that you use, the more resistance you have to fight against the string, because you're really pushing something through a string that's tightened. So if you just instead graze the string with the tip of the pick, it'll be able to very freely glide. What also helps with this is if you actually have the pick slightly angled, not flat against the string, but just a little bit angled so that it can actually sort of slice across the string on the edge. You don't want to have it completely sideways either, because then you just get a lot of noise, a lot of rubbing noise. But if you just get it just enough where it's a little bit on an angle, it helps a little bit. So that's pretty much the three main points of alternate picking. Pick with the wrist, using very small motions and only the tip of the pick. Okay, so what I recommend is to practice doing this not just on one string, but across all 6 strings. So start with, I'm actually playing a 7-string right now, but I'm going to just use the 6th through the 1st string. And this is going to actually show us another situation that comes up when we alternate pick across multiple strings. Let's just start with the 6th string and the 5th string. And I'm also tuned down a whole step, by the way, but that's irrelevant for right now. If I just pick downstroke on the 6th string and upstroke on the 5th string and repeat, my pick is going to go around these 2 strings. This is called outside picking. The other way I could do this is if I was to start my 6th string, exactly the same melody, but I'm going to start on an upstroke and then pick down on the 5th string. Now this is a little bit more of a cramped kind of feeling, and this is referred to as inside picking because I'm between the 2 strings rather than going around them. These are basically the 2 main situations you're going to face every time you go from one string to another, from one pick stroke to the next. But each one poses its own particular kind of difficulty. With outside picking, it's a little bit easier because you have more room to move, but you have to move across more space. Kind of a wide figure 8 motion. With inside picking, I have to pick, go past that string, and then downstroke, pick, and then past the string I just picked. Okay, so keeping in mind the previous 3 points, again, I'm still going to pick from my wrist, and I'm still going to pick with as small a motion as I can, and still just using the tip of the pick, but I have to kind of get that smaller, tighter figure 8 motion down for inside picking. So that's pretty much it for alternate picking. There is a type of picking which is referred to usually as jugging, which is usually just downstrokes. You know, it can provide a little bit more of an aggressive rhythm, I guess. But in order, especially if you're planning on ever doing something that's kind of fast, you're definitely going to want to do alternate picking, because if I was to try to play something fast with all downstrokes, I'm only going to, at best, be able to go probably a little bit less than half of my potential speed. So if I try to play a scale, so let me try that with alternate picking. It's also very inaccurate too, because you have to keep going around the string every time you do another. In order to do a downstroke and then another downstroke, you have to go around the string you just picked. With alternate picking, you can just come right back through with an upstroke. So let's try that same thing again. That was as fast as I could go with all downstrokes. So let's try it this way. Oops. Alright, so you can get a lot more speed going that way. Try to play as much as you can using alternate picking, because most of the other types of picking techniques involve at least little sections of alternate picking. There are a lot of other kinds of rhythms, like the something called the gallop, which is actually down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So it's like we're skipping an upstroke. So that and a lot of other more complex rhythms that are based on that, like you can go. That was, in a way, we could look at that gallop as 1, 2, and 1, 2, and almost like a 2-beat rhythm, where we play a quarter note on the downstroke, and then we play 2 eighth notes with down and up, and then repeat. I could do that with something like 3/4, which is down, down, up, and then repeat. So down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. So, you know, up to speed. You can get some interesting rhythms out of doing the same basic alternate picking based picking. So anyway, I hope this helps, and I'll see you next time.